So before we start discussing about statistics, let us know what are our prime objectives, particularly in the direction of class 10 board, and what is the syllabus we need to address. Okay. Are you all have gone through the board syllabus of your corresponding board? I'm just
Yes.
giving you
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I'm just giving you the outline, like what are the basic things that we need to address. Like if you go through any of the books that is addressing statistics, will definitely have something more than you require, and it's on the basis of your understanding purpose. Even we'll be having our discussion in such a way that we can definitely cover your board syllabus in today's discussion itself. Definitely we need to practice quite a lot of variation of problems on that, but at least theoretical covering can be done in this single session. And definitely that should be corresponded by sufficient theoretical understanding. So when we are addressing statistics in class 10, roughly our target is the basics of statistics like data, what kind of statistics we are going to accumulate, what is statistics, and then if we accumulate certain type of data that might be discrete data or group data, what are they, we will discuss just in a while. We'll be identifying their central tendencies. Okay, so that is roughly the syllabus. As such, in details, when we will discuss, you will have the better idea of what you need to cover actually. Okay, so before we start even, let us know what is statistics. Okay, so statistics is all about data. Okay, now what is data? It is the observed raw facts or information. Okay, is the first line visible to all? So statistics, this is the only science without a proof, and still it is most regular to follow. Okay, and it is basically reading of data. And what is data? It is observed raw facts or information. Okay, so it's something like that. You can think of a statistic like you have seen that whenever towards the end of December, okay, we do have our school associated examination. Okay, so that's a statistics. We cannot prove that it will happen same time, but definitely if it is certain regular things, so by the regularity pattern itself, it will happen. Like you can think of climate, okay, or particular day associated weather or particular time frame associated weather. Okay, that is something we can identify on the basis of statistics, but definitely it can be corresponded by according geological and geographical survey of the flow of air and other possibilities that decides the weather of next few days and accordingly. But if we think on a longer run, like say the month of August and July in Kolkata, okay, we know that this is supposed to be a time where we will experience some rainfall in Kolkata. Now this year it's happening, last year it has happened, and it is happening for last 10-15 years or maybe longer than that. On that basis, we can expect a rainfall even in the next year, August, September. But can we prove that next year also it will happen? Okay. Mostly we are supposed to have some depression around the South Bengal and around this time every year, August, September, somewhere or the other, one of these 2 months, they are supposed to experience some heavy rainfall due to certain depression. Almost every year happens so. And this is what we are experiencing for quite a long. Now that is statistics, that is data. Okay. On that basis, can we confirm that next year also this will happen in Kolkata? Can that be established? Definitely not, right?
Sir, we can predict.
We can predict. Prediction is different thing. Okay, because prediction can be of two types. One is wild guess, and the second one is mathematical probability. Okay, so we are not talking of the prediction, but definitely we can think of expecting. Okay, we are expecting again the same thing to happen because this is happening on a regular basis. Almost every year this is happening. So this is data we have that this is happening almost every year. Okay, and that's been repeated for quite long. So now it has become a statistics with me, and on that basis we can expect again a depression in next year, August or September, and due to that heavy rainfall in Kolkata, right? So can everyone correlate what I am trying to convey? Now,
Yes, sir.
this is definitely a science, but we cannot have proof for it. So statistics also called the only science without a proof. Okay. Whereas even after that, this is the most regular thing to be followed. So anyway, if we try to correspond it with its helping hand, the first one we have found to be data, which is observed raw facts or information. Next, if we consider of adding, so data arranged in ascending or descending order, that's called adding. Like when we are taking the data, it is simply raw facts. They may appear to us in any order. When we are rearranging them in ascending order or otherwise in descending order, then after this rearrangement, what we get is called adding. Next is average of data. Okay, a certain value, representative of the whole data and signifying its characteristic is called average of the data. Okay, so average of the data means instead of the whole observed raw facts or collected information, if we try to have a representing value which will say the thing in a gist, means if we make gist of the data and try to represent the data on the basis of that, that is called average. Okay, like if you want to know how good is Virat Kohli, okay, say you have seen certain recent matches, you have started watching cricket recently, and you have seen certain recent matches where you haven't found Kohli to be that impressive like the people perception is around you. Now you need to know, is Kohli actually that good that seniors around you are talking about, or it's not? So the first thing we look about is batting average, right? Say you have found or say you have heard about a student in some different school, not in your school, and you have heard about him that he is very good. Okay. Now, how good he is, to identify that, will you go for each and every score of that student? Or would you first like to know what is the average scoring in a particular examination? Right?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
So average of the data means it is basically a value, maybe from the data, may not be from the data, but it will become representative of the whole data, which will roughly try to signify the characteristic of your data. Okay, is that understood? Like if you heard about a student whose average science subject score in the respective school is 97. So just by hearing this, what kind of perception you are having?
Sir, he is good in science.
So good in science. And if I do have the data that a student is in another school and for last 5 years, his average science course is around 85.
He is
Then,
not that good.
so maybe good, but definitely may not be that good. Means not in the excellent category or any such sort of. And if I get the information that there is certain student uh, whose average science mark for last 5 years is around 43,
Sir, not good.
not good in science, right? So that's a perception been developed on the basis of this number itself, though we don't know their individual marks. Okay, might be possible that the student we are talking about with an average of 43, it might be possible that there were certain earlier score which were good, and with greater classes, when the volume and the ideas been increased corresponding to the science subject, then the scores been dropped drastically. So
Yes,
we
sir.
don't know the exact information, but some perception can be developed on the basis of this average. Okay, so every time average may not give you the exact information, right? but somehow it signifies certain characteristic. It may not give us the exhaustive information, but some information can be extracted from the average of the data, right? So ahead of that, we have tried to define average in different formats in terms of central tendencies. So not just average, but central tendencies. Now, what are central tendencies? The three central tendencies that we need to address as per your class 10 syllabus is mean, median, and mode. What is mean? You can identify that mean is the arithmetic average of the data collected. Okay. So if we have the arithmetic average of the data, that's called mean. When we have arranged the data in array, then the middlemost observation of that array is called median. Okay. And if we think of mode, that is the most frequent observation. I'm resizing the page a bit. Is it completely visible now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So most frequent observation, that's been named as mode. Now, when we talk about average of data, this may be directed towards only to mean, but actually we have seen that average of data or mean may or may not be the exact information we tried to know. Okay, so accordingly, we might be requiring other central tendencies in the form of median or mode. Is that okay? For example, means when there is mean, most of the cases we use mean. So let us have some example. When we already have mean, do we actually require any other central tendency, or what will be the use of median? Or so simply consider there is an ice cream parlor. Have you ever visited an ice cream parlor?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Never. Okay, say some sweet shop, some localized sweet shop, which also keeps ice cream.
Yes.
That's been experienced by everyone.
Yes, sir.
Now, this particular sweet shop, which also keeps ice cream, it need to place its order for every certain interval. Okay. So say in the past week, say this particular shop place orders of ice cream on a weekly basis. Okay. And it's a new shop been opened. So for the first week, they have placed certain order and they have found that if they carry or if they keep three variations, only three variations are available. Okay. Or let's make the variation a bit more. Okay. So five variations are there. Okay. Vanilla flavor, strawberry flavor, butterscotch, okay, chocolate, and say orange flavor. Okay. So these are the five variation of ice cream they have. What they have found that the butterscotch ice cream, they had almost a sufficient order for each and every part. And what they found that the last week's requirement was say 40 ice creams for butterscotch variation, okay, 10 for orange flavor, 20 from chocolate, 15 each of strawberry and vanilla. So while placing the next week's order, will it be sufficient to have average of this data like 10, 15, 15, 20 and 40 that were respective requirement for orange, vanilla, strawberry, then chocolate, and finally butterscotch. If we go for the arithmetic mean of this five data and place the particular shopkeeper place an order on the average basis, will it solve its purpose?
No, sir. They will need more butterscotch.
They will need more butterscotch. It will need less orange flavor.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So sometimes the arithmetic average is not going to signify the characteristic of the requirement. Okay. So over here, we need to look into mode, which is the most frequent requirement. Like over here, as per the data, we can think of butterscotch was the modal data. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Or if he wants to place an order on the basis of, say, after certain weeks, it has found that sometime butterscotch requirement is high, sometime it's low. So if we need to place certain orders, so what we can do is we can arrange the weekly orders in a data and accordingly find the median. Okay, if it is not much deviating, is that clear? So when there is mean, why do we also require median and mode? Is that clear to all? Every
Yes,
time arithmetic average of the data is not signifying the characteristics. So sometimes we need to differ. Is this far clear to all?
Yes, sir.
yes, sir.
Now we do have data in two variation. One is group data and the other one is ungrouped data. When we take individual informations, that's called ungrouped data. And when the sample size is very great, okay, then usually we group. Okay, like what kind of thing we are talking about? Say you need to identify the nature of change in temperature in Kolkata. Okay, say in a recent week, you need to identify that. Now, due to that, will you notice and observe the temperature of each and every second or each and every microsecond?
No, sir.
So instead, what will you do? If as this is going to be huge data, if I take second wise or so, so what we can go for, we can think of breaking the daytime into certain equal parts. So 2 hour span, the total
Yes,
24 hour been divided into 12 2 hour spans, and then we can identify the information on temperature at the beginning of the 2 hour and at the ending of the 2 hour, right?
yes,
If we try to take second wise precision data, then we need to take 3600 data in every hour, which is not much feasible. So when we need to go for a large data, usually we try to have some group data. Okay, and then what we try to identify the average temperature of that particular span. Okay, so say if you have noticed the temperature at morning 6 and morning 8, at morning 6 say it was around 18 degrees centigrade. Okay, and say at 8 it was something 28. So the average says it's 23 degrees centigrade. But does that mean that from morning 6 to 8 we experience 23 degrees centigrade? Definitely not.
yes, sir.
So there will be certain increment time wise. Okay. So we might not get the precise data of every smaller units, but when the data is so large and we need to conclude something which does not require that kind of precision. So even this 2 hour reading on an average note will do the job. That even if we think of that in Kolkata in this type of timing, this particular timing of the year, the average temperature of morning 6 to 8 is something around 23 degrees centigrade. That might be sufficient for our requirement if we are not particularly require any precise data. Okay, so that's the benefit of group data. So when we are talking of group data, we define this particular intervals. Like I have talked about, we have divided the whole daytime 24 hours into 12 units of 2 hours, but that may or may not solve the purpose. Okay, like say from morning 4 to 6, the difference is huge because at 4 it was almost dark and at 6 its light came out. And due to that, say the temperature difference is very high and very rapid in that span. So we may not be able to divide it into equal span every time. Okay. So in any way, what are the part lengths? That's called class length. Okay. So that is span of considered at a time. Okay. So span of consideration at a time, that is called class length. Now that might be of regular length or uniform length, or maybe of non-uniform length due to the certain problem, like I have talked about. Like we were taking some temperature note down, and for that morning 4 to 6, that is having a huge change. So we might think of having changes like from midnight to 2, okay, then from 2 to 4:30, okay, or 2 to 5, say, let's not have any half data, 2 to 5, and then 5 to 7, then 7 to 9, then 9 to 12. So we might have class lengths, not necessarily all are equal. Sometimes we might even deviate. Okay. So what I'm talking about is not uniform class length, and we will target non-uniform class length, where due to uniform class length, we are getting in some of the particular intervals or some of the class particular considered span, which is having huge changes. Okay. So to avoid that, we might look for non-uniform class. Otherwise, it will be always preferable to go for uniform classes. Okay. So when we are talking about uniform class length, over there, we do have two variations. It's inclusive group data and excluding group data. Now, what does this mean? Like, if we think of inclusive group data, over there, end observation of any considered span is same as the start observation of the next considered span. This is including group data. Over there, end observation of any considered span is same as the start observation of next considered span. Okay. So it's something like we have divided the 24-hour into uniform class length, 12 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 6, and so on. Okay. So over here, it is inclusive group data, like 12 to 2, and the next one starts exactly from. Then what does mean by excluding group data? Say I have taken the temperature from 1201 to 159. Then I need to change the sheet. So intermediately I require some time. So my next reading starts from 201 and it goes up to 359. Okay. And then again, I need to change my instrument or reset my instrument. So the next one starts from 401 and continues up to 559 and so on. So this type of data is called excluding group data. Okay. Over here, end observation of any span is not same as the start observation of next span. Okay. And in general, we do have such data where the difference between end observation of any span and start observation of next span, over there, the reading consideration having an equal difference. Let's get to some example based on that. So before that, we are considering how to transform excluding data into including data. So on that basis, you will also have the example on that basis. If
Sir,
we,
please scroll up just once.
yes, this part.
Yes, sir.
So is the idea of inclusive group data and excluding group data clear to everyone?
Yes.
Now, when we do have excluding group data, we can transform that into including group data. So we can transform excluding group data into inclusive group data by adding half of the non-considered span included to the end of one considered span, keeping the continuity, and rest half to the start of the next considered span in same way. Okay. So
Sir,
if
that
we-
will be inclusive, right? You will
Yeah.
inclusive.
you can see including data, inclusive data, both means the same. Okay. So basically, if your end of one considered span is same as the next one, then it is including the terminal data. Accordingly, you can say it's including data, including group data, or inclusive group data. Similarly, if you have excluded, you can consider it as exclusive group data or excluding group data. Basically, it's trying to convey you the same message, so it does not matter how you are addressing. Okay, both means the same. Okay, for example, if we do have group data in the form of 0 to 8, then 10 to 18, then 20 to 28, then 90 to 98, and so on. This is definitely a group data which is excluding group data or exclusive group data, the end of one span does not match with the start of the next span. So what will we do? We will think of the difference of these two, 8 and 10. That is 2 units. So half of the difference we will add to the end of a data or end of a considered span, and rest half should be subtracted from the start of the next span. Okay. So this is an excluded group data. So when we will transform that into inclusive group data, we will think of for 8 and 10, it will be difference 2. So half of that 1 should be added to 8 and 1 should be subtracted from 10. Similarly, 1 should be added to 18 and 1 should be subtracted from 20, and so on it will continue. Even to keep the class length same, though we didn't had any information prior to 0, but to have uniform class length, we will go for 0, -1 and 98 plus 1. So that changes the group data into inclusive one. Is it clear?
Sir, could you please scroll just a little bit of this way?
Yeah. So statements are clear. The processes and the statements, are they clear?
Yes.
This part?
Yes, sir.
So ahead of that, we'll go for frequency. Now, what is frequency? It is number of times any observation occurred in the data that's been addressed as frequency. Okay. Now you might have a single data, ungroup data, single data. In that case, that particular data, how many times it has occurred, that will be considered as frequency. Or if you are considering a group data, then how many of the data fall into a particular group, that decides the frequency of that group. Okay. For example, you are taking scores of a particular student. Okay. So if you are considering scores of a particular student to have the average mark in annual examination, so you need to take every individual subject score. Okay. Now it might be possible that the particular student has scored perfect 100 in 3 of the subjects. So in your data, the observation 100 will have frequency 3. Okay. And when you need to know about a class data, say in a particular school, say DPS Ruby Park, where number of students in each class is very high. Okay. So in DPS, we have considered all the students of class 9. Okay. So all the students of class 9, so there is very huge number of students. So having each and every subject score in particular for each and every student, that will be huge data to handle. So instead we have what we have considered. So we have made certain group range like 50 to 60, then 60 to 70, then 70 to 80, then 80 to 90, and 90 to 100. And then we are considering how many students are falling into that kind of group scoring. Means how many scores fall into a particular span. Okay. Now, how many students will fall into a particular span, that will decide the frequency of that particular span or that particular group. Okay. So frequency simply means number of appearance time or number of repeating time for any particular observation in ungrouped or grouped form. Is that okay?
Yes.
Next, class mark or class average, that is arithmetic average of any considered class or group data. Okay. Class means this type of spans, what we have considered earlier. These are individually called classes. Okay. Each considered span from a group data is called a class. So class mark or class average is the arithmetic average of any considered span. That means simply lower or starting observation of the class plus highest observation from the class divided by 2. Is that okay? So if a class is from L to H, then class average or class mark will be L plus H by 2. Right, everyone?
Yes.
L is the
Sir,
least or starting observation and H is the highest or final observation. Then L plus H by 2 will decide the class average or class. Yes.
Sir, what if like the numbers between L and H and like they occur in with different frequencies? So then,
That might happen, but when we are selecting a group, we are ignoring this precise data. Okay. Like
okay,
you have considered in a class of 100, see you have made, you are trying to collect scores of mathematics. Okay. Is that clear to everyone?
yes,
Others, please keep your microphone in mute. Okay, so in a class of 100, we are trying to inherit the score of mathematics. So accordingly, you have found the least score is say 48 and the highest score is 96. But instead of taking information from 100 students, you have considered of making certain groups. So you have made groups like promoting score 40 to 50, then 50 to 60, 60 to 70, and so on. So you do have a single student scoring 48. Okay, that means the frequency of the group 40 to 50 will be 1. But that does not mean the single observation was 45, which was class mark or class average, right? But it has nothing to do with that. When we are going for a group data, definitely we are adapting that there will be certain error in minor precision, right?
yes,
Okay, like when we are going to measure heights of people, okay, have you ever experienced that in your school? Measurement of height,
yes,
is it accurate into micrometer?
no, sir.
But that will definitely create difference in the average class height. If we
Yes,
would have in micrometer, it would have been much better. So sometimes we ignore certain minor precision data. When we are getting into group, that means we are already handling a huge data. And that is not much dependent over micro level analysis, and it's not even affordable. Okay. So over there, it will not make much difference. Even it might be possible that you have made a group of scores, say 50 to 59, and we do have frequency of that group 12, out of which 2 students have scored 58 and 10 students have scored 59. That is a possible option. Whereas it might have also been possible that 6 of the student has scored 51 and 6 of the student has scored 52. So all such possibility will lie over there, and definitely due to that, if we would have gone individual, it would have been much better, precise calculation. But we are deviating from that.
yes,
Okay, so we are accepting this deviation, that this much deviation may happen. But when your data is huge, it's not always feasible to go individual, right?
yes,
So now we can follow the requirement of class intervals and class mark and what's their importance. Okay, and even if the frequency is not uniform, still it will be fine for us because our precision is not requiring those kind of individual data when we are handling something huge in terms of sample space. Anyway, so we are now deciding first approach to determine mean for a group data, uniform class length group data. Okay, so we are considering a group data in the form of L1 to H1, then L2 to H2, and so on, LK to HK. So we are thinking of a group data with K classes. Okay, what else? We have considered this is uniform class length group data. So HI minus LI is a fixed value X for I is equals to 1 to K. That means each of the class length is X. What else? HI is equal with Li plus 1. That means final observation for any class is same as initial observation of next class. So we can believe this is an inclusive data. Is
yes,
that okay? And average for ith class, that is Li plus Hi by 2, been marked as Xi. So xi is the class mark or class average of the ith class. Okay. If we get fi as frequency of ith class, okay, then mean will be decided on the basis of summation over class average into frequency of that class divided by sum of all the frequencies. Okay, so when it is a group data, we can have our first approach towards mean in a form where we are multiplying the class average with the frequency. So instead of considering an uniform variation, we are simply considering whatever is the frequency of that class that's been totally attributed to the class average. So considering class average as a single observation with that frequency, we are calculating. So how we are calculating? We are multiplying class average of a class by the frequency of that class and having sum of such data divided by sum of the frequencies or divided by total frequency. Is that okay?
Yes.
Next, approach 2 or assumed mean method. Okay. Now, when there is first approach, why should we go for the second one? Like xi into fi, this might be something huge in terms of data. Like if in each class, if my class sizes are very huge, class data are very huge, so xi into fi, that will be a huge data to calculate for. Instead, we have considered of another approach when xi is something huge. Okay, so we will consider xi from one of the middle group as mean. Okay, and we will denote it as capital A stands for assumed mean. Okay, so one of the class average, not from any of the starting group or ending group, but from the middle, towards the middle. If we target any group or any class, from that class, if I take the corresponding class average as the assumed mean capital A, in that case, we will identify the calculations for DI, that is difference in the ith group, and this is standing for DI is the class average of ith group minus assumed mean. Okay, so if xi are all huge, then xi minus A supposed to be respectively lesser data, positive or negative, but this is supposed to be numerically respectively lesser. Am I clear with everyone?
Yes, sir.
So if one of the middle class been identified with its class average and marked it as capital A, then xi minus A should, which has been marked as DI, is supposed to be respectively lesser data to be handled with. And hence we can think of the mean to be calculated for is assumed mean added with the deviation data or the average deviation. Okay, and how we are calculating the average deviation? So it is average mean added with sigma over the difference of each class average from the assumed mean into the frequency divided by total frequency. Okay, so this section will give us the error in assuming mean. If I consider this is the mean to be calculated for exact in a group data, group inclusive data, then our assumed mean when being taken as A, this will be the error involved in assuming. Is that okay? So when I am adding the error with the A, it's getting back to the same mean. Can everyone follow?
Yes.
Okay. Now, third approach or step deviation method. Now, how do we go for that? We will decide capital A as earlier, like we will think of one of the middle classes with its class average being taken as capital A. Okay. And then we will calculate ui, that is xi minus A by x. Can you all recall x? X was the common class length. Okay, the every uniform span length was x. So what we are marking is ui. Ui is average of ith class minus your assumed mean divided by the common class length, that is x. And now the actual mean can be calculated for your assumed mean plus x into sigma over fi into x, sorry, fi into ui divided by total frequency. Is that clear? Basically, if you go through this data, it is trying to make the data much more smaller. Like if xi are very high, so xi minus a will be respectively less, and xi minus a, if it is still quite large for the different group, so xi minus a divided by x will make it something smaller. And if you replace instead of di, if you are using ui, so basically it is di by x. So after having calculation with this, you are multiplying the result with x. So basically we are nullifying the impact of x. So why we are doing this? Even after assuming the mean as capital A, if xi minus a is not always much small, so this division by x is supposed to make it a bit smaller, right?
Yes.
Is
Sir,
it clear for all?
please go to the first method once.
Yeah, I'll go for. But first of all, is the motives and the approaches clear? For
Yes.
taking note purpose, we will definitely go back. But are the basic ideas clear to each and everyone?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Sir, I think
So as I said, we'll be having more clarification on this instruction when we'll have some data to address a problem. We'll go for that in a while. But firstly, let us have a look to the instructions or methods to have median for a group data, group included data. Okay. So to identify the median, firstly, we need to identify the total frequency. Okay. Like say the total frequency is some n. Okay. So there are individual classes where their individual frequencies are fi, like we will believe we are addressing to the same group from L1 to H1 and L2 to H2. So there were k groups or k classes, each with frequency fi. Okay. Like fi is the frequency of ith group. So f1 frequency of first group, f2 frequency of second group, and so on. But what denominators we have used so far, all this sigma over fi or total frequency, we are considering n. Now, if that happens, we will firstly find n by 2. So exactly half of the number of frequencies. Now, there might be two possibilities. Okay. One, n is even, so n by 2 will also be integral. If not, then n is odd, and then n by 2 is not a particular integer. So if n is an odd number, then consider the value of n plus 1 divided by 2. Okay. And then mark the class with cumulative frequency just greater than n by 2 as the median class. Okay. What is cumulative frequency? Is that clear? Like for the first class, the frequency was f1. For second class, frequency was f2. Means up to second class, cumulative frequency is f1 plus f2. Similarly, frequency of third class was f3. So cumulative frequency up to the third class will be f1 plus f2 plus f3. So we will identify that particular class where the cumulative frequency is appearing just greater than n by 2. It doesn't matter whether it is integral or not, but we will target that particular class where the cumulative frequency just exceed n by 2. Okay. It may not exceed, just reach or exceed. Both possibility can be there. Okay. Is that understood? Like say if n is 100, then n by 2 is 50. So we will target that particular class up to which if we add the frequencies, it is either exactly 50 or otherwise just in that last class, the cumulative frequency has exceeded 50. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
If I consider that particular class was the Rth class, means starting with initial reading LR and ending with final reading HR. So median of this data will be LR plus, LR means initial observation or initial data of the median class, added with class length multiplied with the difference of half of the cumulative frequency minus C. What is C? I am conveying you. C is the cumulative frequency up to preceding class. Whatever you have identified as median class, just prior to that class, what was cumulative frequency? That's been denoted as C. For the timing, just write C. I'll show you what you need to write for C. So X, the common class interval or class length, multiplied with n by 2 minus C, divided by frequency of the median class, where C is the cumulative frequency up to the class preceding the median class. Okay, so just prior to the median class, whatever class we had, up to that, what was the cumulative frequency? If I subtract that cumulative frequency from n by 2, so we will know from half of the total frequency how much it was deviating. And then we are getting the weightage in terms of dividing that part with the frequency of median class multiplied by class length. So that gives you the deviation from minimal observation. Is that okay with everyone?
Yes, sir.
As per initial denotion, we can already identify FR as frequency of median class. Now, what I haven't written over here, we could have gone for median also as, we could have also gone for median as HR minus some data, because median data supposed to appear between LR and HR. So instead of adding with LR, we might subtract from HR, right?
Yes, sir.
And in that case, what we would have subtracted, it should have been the common class length X into, say, some C1 minus n by 2 divided by FR, okay, where this C1 will stand for cumulative frequency up to the median class. Instead of stopping up to pre-median class or preceding to median class, if that cumulative frequency was C, we are thinking of C1, which is cumulative frequency up to median class minus n by 2. So how much more we have gone ahead? The weightage been decided on the basis of division by frequency of median class FR, multiplying it with class length. Okay, so if we subtract this data from HR, that should give you also the axis of median. Okay, so it might be a bit confusing in terms of instructions now, but try to have this results with you and definitely give it a rethink to inherit that what it's actually trying to convey. Like if it was individual on observations, median should have been simply transforming the observations into array. The middlemost observation should have been median. And if there would not have been any middlemost observation, in that case, the two observations of the middle, they will have their arithmetic average as median. Okay, like if you have 10 observations, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So instead of a middlemost observation, we have two observations at the middle, 5 and 6. So their average should have been median, right? But when we are getting into group data, it may or may not be possible to identify exactly the middlemost observation, the n by 2th observation, right? So we are willing to know this n by 2 where it is falling weightage wise in the median class. Median class varies from lower observation LR to higher observation HR. So intermediately, where exactly the weightage of n by 2 falls. So how we can decide that? Either we can go for from n by 2, we will have the difference of preceding to median class frequency. So that means how much more is n by 2 up to the total frequency prior to the median class. It will be transforming into weightage when we are dividing it with the frequency of median class. Now that is unit weightage. It will be transformed into actual weightage when we will multiply it by the class length, and then you are adding it to the list observation or starting observation of that. Or otherwise, what we could have gone for, like due to the group data, we are not getting stopped exactly at n by 2th observation, but we are going up to C1, which is cumulative frequency up to median class. Now, how much it is more than the n by 2 data? It will be transformed into weightage when we are dividing it by the frequency of that particular class. Now that is unit weightage. It will be transformed into absolute weightage when we will multiply it with the class length. And this is additional to median. So that is why this has been subtracted from HR to reach the median. Is that clear?
Yes, sir. Sir, can we involve the like class average of the next class, like
No,
next to
it
median?
won't be right because it might deviate you from the actual data. Next class might have deviated in a larger scale. Okay. Is it clear up to that? Next, write down.
Sir, the C1 that you had written, like the
C1
C1.
is F1 plus F2 plus F3 up to FR.
Yes, sir,
Okay.
but that is from the forwards, right? Not from the backwards. Like C1.
No. C1 from starting itself. Okay. Just write down this C1 should have been sigma Fi, I varying from 1 to 1. Okay.
Sir, why in here will it be like up to the median class?
Yes, like either your median can be said it is a bit more than LR,
Yes,
is LR or higher.
yes, sir.
Simultaneously, it is also true it is HR or lesser. So
Okay.
either you identify how much it is more than LR, the initial observation of medial class, or otherwise you decide how much it should be less than HR. Okay. And this weightage will be decided that how far you have exceeded n by 2.
Okay.
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 Is that clear to all? Okay, so we are going for method to determine mode for the group included data. So we will firstly identify the highest frequency of a class, because we know that mode is most frequently observed data. Over here, our data is group. So basically, we will identify that group whose frequency is high. That means we will identify that Fj, where Fj is greater than equals to Fi for all I varying from 1 to k. So that will give us the identification of modal class. Modal class means the class which contain mode in that span. Okay. So if we identify the modal class, say some Lj to Hj, as we have considered, Fj is the highest frequency. Okay. So accordingly, Lj to Hj will become modal class. And again, you can decide that mode will be something Lj or higher, or alternatingly, it can also be addressed as it is Hj or a bit lesser, right? So firstly, we are going for, if we try to identify how much it is more than the starting observation Lj. So in that case, we can mark it mode is Lj added with class length multiplied with Fj, that is frequency of modal class, minus Fj minus 1, that is frequency of pre-modal class. So this is frequency of the class which was just preceding the modal class. Okay, divided by Fj minus Fj minus 1, the difference with which Fj is higher from the frequency from pre-modal class, added with Fj minus Fj plus 1. That means how much the highest frequency is more than the frequency of post-modal class. Okay, so the classes which were immediately preceding the modal class or immediately succeeding the modal class, if I consider their frequencies are respectively Fj minus 1 and Fj plus 1, so the difference from Lj, firstly we will decide the weightage. So how much it is more than the pre-modal class frequency divided by the difference of or sum of the differences of modal class frequency from the adjacent class frequencies. Okay, and if we consider this as the unit weightage, that will be transformed into absolute difference value when we will multiply this with the value of x, the common class length. If you add that to Lj, it will be the mode value. On a similar note, instead of Fj minus 1, if I use the numerator as Fj minus Fj plus 1, on a similar way, this is the weightage of difference from the final observation of modal class. So when we multiply it with x and subtract from Hj, this is also stands for mode. Similar to the last idea. So firstly, take a note of this part. Okay, and let me know where the instructions are not clear. Because at this moment, you should inherit it as instructions. The inheritation of the idea will be found when we'll be spending some time over problems, and with better run, we'll be pursuing these ideas. Gradually, it will be inherited that how it is actually working on. Okay. So ahead of that, if we try to correlate this central tendencies, these three central tendencies that we have learned so far, mean, median, and mode. So we will remember that we can have their internal relation as mode is thrice of median minus twice of mean. Okay. The most uniform data is that one where mean, median, and mode coincide. If not, due to the group data, due to the different frequencies, if that differ, even then we should follow that mode is thrice of median minus twice of mean. Okay, and remember this is for the group data we are talking about. Okay, now this is all about the information about central tendencies. Apart from that, we know that apart from central tendency, we might also require the data that how much are my data is scattered about the central tendency. Okay, so this is another part which is also there in your syllabus, which is called dispersion data or scatteredness data. Okay, hello. So we can go for the dispersion data afterward, but so far whatever we have learned, let's have some example on that. And if I think of this particular representation of mode, or better to say the relation of mean, median and mode, we can also consider of that median is mode into 1 plus mean into 2 divided by 2 plus 1. So all of you, those who can recall this section formula in coordinate, you can think of if mean, median and mode been considered as points. So median is that point which divides the mode or mean and mode joining line in the ratio of 1:2. Okay. So for group data, you can also recall the relation of mean, median and mode. If it is a two-dimensional data, then you can believe the point representing median is the 2:1 internal section point for mode to mean.
Sir, how can it be a two-dimensional data?
Like if you consider of the data associated with something else, say at what time you have taken the data. Okay. So if there are two variables into the data, in that case, you can believe this median representing points to be the 2:1 section point for the points joining mode and, okay, or simply you can stick to the first representation. Okay.
Yes.
Now we are going for some examples to inherit these ideas. Okay. Now I haven't written much for the tables. I'm describing them. Say we are thinking of a class where we have observed the math score. Okay. And instead of going for individual scores, we have divided the groups into this category. Say nowadays, mostly you do have 20 marks per project. Okay. So the total marks for the written examination in maths is 80, and we have divided that into 8 groups. That's 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, and so on up to 70 to 80. And in the next row, we do have number of students who have scored in this region. So that means 5 students have scored between 0 to 10, 8 between 10 to 20, 7 between 20 to 30, 12 between 30 to 40, 28 between 40 to 50, 20 between 50 to 60, 10 between 60 to 70, and 10 between 70 to 80. Okay. Is that clear? So that's number of students can be considered as frequency of these groups now.
Yes.
Now, based on that, what are the things we need to identify? First question is, what is the most probabilistic score from the class for any random student? Okay. Now, what does that mean? What is the most probabilistic score from the class for any random student?
Sir, mode.
So,
Very
yes, sir, mode.
That's mode. Means which particular score will have the highest probability, right?
Yes.
And can we identify the interval from where we can get that data?
Sir, 40 to 50.
Very good. Because maximum number of students have scored in that particular interval. Okay. And also we do have a second question, that is, what is the most expected score from the class?
Sir, mean.
Is that okay? So can you all follow these questions? Because over here, it's not directly been said that whether you need to decide mean or median or mode, but instead the language has been presented in such a way you can only answer this question if you know the inner meaning of the central tendencies. So is that clear to everyone?
Sir, how is the second one mean?
I haven't yet confirmed whether the second one is mean or the first one is mode or any such sort of thing. just firstly try to identify on your own. What does this words mean?
Sir, 40 to 50.
Like which one is mode? Is it the first question which is mode, or is it the second question which is mode, or is it the first question which is requiring the mean of the group data, or is it the second question requiring the mean of the group data? So
Sir,
let us
first
firstly
question is,
try
I
to.
think, mode.
Okay, and why do you believe so?
Sir, because the mode is the most frequent observation, right? So it is the
Okay,
most probable one too. And probability is basically number of outcomes by total number of outcomes, right?
so the first question asking you what is the most probabilistic score from the class for any random student. So if I select any random student, what kind of score or what will be the most expected score from that particular student?
Sir, is it mean?
Sir, 40 to 50
That
only.
that that we will decide afterward. 40 to 50, 50 to 60. That's different issue. But firstly, stress out over this particular description that what is the most probabilistic score from the class for any random student. So I randomly selected a student from the class. Okay. Now it might have that particular student could have been there with any possible score from any of these 8 categories.
Sir, it
When I
should
have
be mean.
selected a student in random, what is the highest probability for his score? Okay, and the second one is what is the most expected score from this class? So let us identify or let us analyze these words and how we are going to decide whether we need to go for median or not. So first question, that is expecting you the highest probability of a score, right? Can you all follow? Can you all correlate? The
Yes.
first question asking highest probability for any particular score. So what score will have highest probability? That is the most frequent score. That means it is the modal score or mode itself for the distribution or for the group data, right? So as per first question, we need to decide the mode. So we can identify modal class 40 to 50. Is the transformation of language that's clear? Because once you identify the first question is asking you mode, after that we know the strategy, how to decide mode. So is this verbal representation clear to each and every one of you? That first question was stating about mode, or
Yes.
anyone still having any concern? Most probabilistic score from the class for any random student. If I select any random student, what score will have highest probability to be assigned to that student? So we are searching for that score which has highest probability or highest frequency. That's mode. So once we are decided with mode, we can now solve the first question. Modal class is 40 to 50 because it has highest frequency 28. Okay. So what we will go for is frequency of the modal class is 28. Constant class length is 10. Okay. Class length means over here this span length is 10 for every span. Frequency of pre-modal class is 12 and frequency of post-modal class frequency of post-modal class is 20, like just before the group of 40 to 50 with highest frequency. The pre-modal class is 30 to 40 with frequency 12 and post-modal class is 50 to 60 with frequency 20. Okay, post-modal class 50 to 60 with frequency 20. Is that clear? So we have calculated all the required information and now we can go for that mode. we can calculate by that data. So we'll identify this 28, which is the frequency of modal class. It is 16 higher than 12 and it is 8 less than 20. Right? Can you all
Yes.
follow? So that
Yes, sir.
means from the pre-modal class frequency, it is 16 higher, and from post-modal class frequency, it is 8 lesser. So that means we can expect the weightage of the modal positioning in the group 40 to 50 should be 2:1 from beginning to ending. From starting, if it is 2 unit distance, from ending, it should be 1 unit distance. Right? Let us have a look. So from these distances, we have transformed from 40, mode should be 16x higher, and from 50, it should be 8x lesser. As such, you can directly go for the calculation for mode, and you can identify its matching. Is it okay for all?
Sir, could you explain like how did you get that 46.67 once again from the beginning?
Yeah, just forget about all these things. Okay. You just now have noted the formula for mode and what it was.
Sir, hj minus x into fj
Simply
minus.
consider 40 plus, it's 10 into 28 minus 12 by 28 minus 12 plus 28 minus 20, right? Or in particular, I can write the denominator as 16 plus 8. These were the two differences supposed to appear in the denominator.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that is 40 plus 10 into 2/3, right?
Yes, sir.
So that's what we have done. Right from the formula, this proceeding was clear. Like while describing the formula also, I said this part is for weightage. This is absolute change. And then that's been added to least value. Okay. We could have also gone for, it is 50 minus 10 into 28 minus 20 by 16 plus 8. Right? This is weightage of differing. When multiplied by the class length, it has been changed into the absolute difference and how much it is less from the higher observation of the modal class. That will give you the information. You can identify it is now 50 minus 10 into 1/3. Right? Using the formula, are these calculations clear?
Yes. Sir.
So basically, what does that mean? What we have done? Like firstly, we have decided that from pre-modal class frequency and from post-modal class frequency, modal class frequency is higher by what margin? So we have found the initial margin. Pre-modal class, from pre-modal class frequency, the margin was 16, and from post-modal class, it was 8. Okay, so that means the difference ratio is 16:8. So that means we will decide mode between 40 and 50, which is also maintaining this same ratio from the lower observation and higher observation of the considered class. Is that okay?
Yes. Sir.
Understood?
Yes,
So from
sir.
that way also you can calculate. So this gives you the inner understanding of the formula. Okay, we are not just blindly substituting values for the formula. We now know what we are actually doing with the formula and how the formula has appeared to us.
Sir,
Like
I
we
think
didn't
this
had
is
any,
this was a better way.
yeah. So as I said, for initial classes, we firstly need a discipline to be followed as mechanism. And as we keep on excelling, if we keep on exploring the ideas, we'll get much better understanding of this. right?
Yes.
Okay. And as I have shown it here with the earlier calculations that I have written in rough. So if you go by the formula for mode, for initial observation plus the margin of difference, or higher observation minus the margin of difference, that will also take you to the same data. So can you all follow how it is working? Is the example making sense for everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So as per the second question, what was the required data? Like if I look into the second requirement, what is the most expected score from the class? That means what do we need from the class?
Sir, mean.
The mean, the arithmetic average, right? So can we decide the mean? Are you all clear that for second question, we actually need mean?
Yes, sir. It's the class average.
Okay, so you can do it on your own because already you are given with free variation to decide the mean. My request will be, as per your initial session, you should decide the mean in all three ways and can be sure that all three ways are actually getting you the same mean. Okay, like the first one was sigma over xi into fi divided by sigma over fi. The second method was assumed mean method, and the third one, which was step deviation method. So it will be better as per initial processes, you go for deciding the mean in all three processes and try to look into the calculation to decide with the fact that how all three is taking you to the same data, okay, or same final result.